Hi, everyone. My name is Sarita Dua, and I am so excited to have you with our edition today of Power Playbooks. As you guys know, we come to you every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at noon Pacific time. And our goal with these Power Playbooks is to interview industry rock stars. They're not only rock stars in what they're doing in the business, but they're so generous of heart and spirit because they open up their playbooks and share exactly what's working so that you can walk away from this call with nuggets that you can apply to your business right away. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my lovely co-host, Via Williams, who's going to introduce our guests and kick things off. Via?
Hey, everybody. It's good to see you. I am so excited to interview Matt Durbin and DJ Fairley today. They are out of Pittsburgh and kind of overall Western Pennsylvania. They have a nice sized team. And what I'm really excited to talk about is how they increased their business last year and bucked the trend. In case you haven't noticed, I've been choosing our guests lately to focus on guests who have increased their business last year in a year when, I don't know, Sarita, what 90% of the people we're talking to went down. The market went down about 40%.
And they
So
didn't go down
we
a little, they went down a lot. I mean,
Yeah, the market went down a lot and these guys went up. So we're going to kind of break it down for you and get kind of in the weeds today. And I'm really excited about it. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So I think we can start maybe Matt with you. Would you kind of walk everybody through what your team looks like right now?
Yes. So we have 31, 32 agents that work on our team. We've got a full-time admin, Chelsea, who kind of runs everything from contract to close. She's the glue that kind of keeps the whole thing together. And then we have a virtual assistant that kind of helps out with our contract management, things like that. And then Jen, one of the agents on my team, helps with new agent onboarding and just kind of getting them through the onboarding process with the brokerage and also through like place and getting them into the new agent launch right
Yeah,
now. And then DJ and I are business partners.
got it. And DJ, you kind of focus on being the listing specialist among other things, right?
Yeah. So listings primarily. Also, when me and Matt started, everything was kind of focused on outbound prospecting. So trying to always help the team with script practice, role play, and that's something that we try to do consistently, and also host monthly masterminds, within our organization to drill down even further.
Yeah. How many units did you guys sell last year?
236.
How many did you sell the year before?
Two 215, I believe.
Oh, 215. Nice. So we went from 17 to 32 agents and from 215 to 236 units on a year where the average team I talked to was down 40%. So that's amazing, you guys. Like even staying pat was a win. And so you guys went up. That's just, it's tremendous. So we talked before this, and I think what's cool about you guys is you're a 6-year-old team. It's not like you've been here for 20 years, right? You're a 6-year-old team, and you've seen growth every year. I'm curious, I didn't ask you this when we talked earlier. What is your goal for this year?
It's well, we started the year with a goal of 350.
Okay.
We had a little bit of a slow start this year, so I'm feeling like we'll probably be more 300, 325, realistically thinking, like tracking, but goal's 350. We haven't given up hope yet, but
Yeah.
yeah, we really want to increase unit count. This year's the primary focus.
That's awesome. I love it. So we're going to kind of break down. I thought it was interesting. You were very focused when you talked to me. I said, how did you do this? And you said, really, via it's three things. It's agent count, well, agents, we said, units, and profit. And I love
Right.
that you said profit. So we're gonna kind of hit on all of that and kind of break it down for all of you guys watching to say, look, in 0 to 6 years, how can you get to this point? Because what was your GCI last year, if you don't mind me asking?
I believe it was 1.9.
Okay. So basically 6 years, you went from zero to a $2 million revenue business, which is fantastic. Imagine what that's going to look like in another 6 years. Oh, it's going to be like a J curve hockey stick, right? At that rate.
Hopefully, yes.
It will based on
It will.
it will.
Yeah.
So let's start with agents.
Mhm.
Two things I think there's to talk about, right? The first one is agent count. So I'd love to talk about your recruiting because I know firsthand going from 17 to 32 agents, one thing how it looks on paper, in reality, that is a double, almost you double. It's very challenging to grow that much in a year. So let's start with, what your recruiting cadence was, how you recruited, what you focused on. And then I'd love to move into how you started launching and onboarding them and getting them into production, because I think that's the biggest, right? That's the hardest challenge. But let's start with just how you recruited, what pace you recruited. What did that all look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and quite frankly, too, we kind of didn't really start recruiting, recruiting until probably the second half of last year. We did, we moved over to place the beginning of last year so that there's a little bit of onboarding process that was involved there. So the bulk of it has been in the last maybe 9 months, 10 months. And I would credit a lot of it to the consistency in recruiting, consistency in ads. I think part of the problem with our growth always in the past was, it's always hard when you're still a little bit in production. And so it affects the recruiting in that it's not always consistent. You might have an ad up and it runs for a while and you get a bunch of, inbound prospects that could be potential agents for the team, but then the consistent follow-up doesn't always happen.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to add consistent ad flow through the recruiter, that has been huge for us. Putting a consistent effort towards it, like it's kind of been my primary focus the last 6 to 9 months is trying to grow agent count, and month in, month out, knowing that we need to increase that, and just making a conscious effort this year more towards that number, as opposed to in the past it might just be, somebody comes to us and maybe they're struggling, or they want to join a team because they don't have any other options left, as opposed to now it's more proactive as opposed to passive recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
I would say.
Do you have any philosophies? Like, do you only recruit like 2 at a time or 3 at a time, or do you just kind of bring them on, excuse me, 1 at a time,
So no, I don't have any philosophies on that. Like, I feel like if you've got the right people, then we're gonna find a way to bring them on. And it's not like, in a perfect world, it would be like, okay, 2 a month, 3 a month. But it doesn't always come in like that. It might be 1 month. There's one, and the next month might be five. We want the right people, and we want the right culture fit first and foremost. We've made mistakes in the past where um, we just hire to hire and it never works out. And so I think more so than anything else, like we have a pretty good team, and we have a team culture, and we are team oriented in the fact that, like, everybody's willing to help, no matter who it is, where it is. And sometimes when you bring the wrong person into that, it can have a detrimental effect on the team for months sometimes. And so, like, protecting culture is number one, I feel like. And part of me, egotistically thinks, like, if I just have somebody that's willing to work, I can make them a real estate agent. And maybe that's not always the case, but like, if I've got somebody that's willing to put in the work, then I'm willing to put in the time to kind of help them, and DJ's willing to put in the time. And so I feel like there's a couple of criteria, and those are the two. So, like, if you're willing to put in work, if you're a culture fit, we'll put the time in with it.
What does your recruiting process look like?
So we have Recruiter, always running. Uh,
Which is an online,
yeah,
syndicator effectively.
yeah. If I can go into that if you want,
Yeah.
Recruiter. Yeah. So part of the overall goal with our move to place was growth, right? We need to grow. We feel like we've been stuck in that kind of messy middle, as everyone calls it, um, for a couple of years. And we need consistent growth in order to grow our way out of that. And the only really way to do that is to do that with production and per agent production and agent count growth. So for us, that move systematized a lot of the ad flow that goes out. Indeed ads, LinkedIn ads, being able to refresh those ads, and just consistent lines in the water brings in consistent resumes. And so anything from potential ISAs to agents that want to join the team, to people that are maybe a month into classes. So anything from new agents to licensed agents that are looking for growth, and they're looking for a lot of agents they're looking for a team, and they're looking for a fit, and they're looking to join something bigger than maybe what the brokerage is offering them. It's not always about the production. I feel like anymore, the longer I'm in it, the more I realize that. But consistent consistent flow of people that are looking for a change.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I have follow-up systems that are in place. So depending upon which bucket they may fall, whether that be licensed agent or just passed my test looking for a place to fall, or I just started my courses, it's probably going to be 6 months, they're going to go into a different bucket. And so the concentration is on the ones that are now and ready to go. And then I have like a consistent, like a weekly email that goes out to everybody that's in that database to consistently drip on them. And then I will follow up kind of based on activity, reads, responses. We also we're an open book. So if I've got somebody that is interested or has any interest, or they're not sure if they have any interest, we will invite them to our power ups. We'll invite them to the mastermind, join anything. We've got nothing to hide. I'd rather know now if you don't feel like we're a fit in the way that we do things than 6 months down the road. So I invite everybody to any of those things. They're more than welcome to come in. And I feel like a lot of times the people who have taken advantage of that and jumped on power ups via Zoom, or they've come to masterminds, they end up joining just because they see it's a different, we just run things differently than most
Do
other
you
places.
do you run like a monthly career night or anything?
That would essentially be our mastermind.
Okay. Got it.
So we have a in-person 2-hour mastermind covering a particular topic, and then we have lunch afterward. And so it kind of fills that place for that from a recruiting standpoint. It's also good, valuable information for the agents on our team. And we invite anybody that, like, from our office or other brokerages, but that's kind of the way that we utilize that. And then I've started recently adding the career night from place as an invite. So
Yeah. Yeah. So would you say that your time, if you look at like you as, one of the two team leads, do you time block and time batch your time for this, just like you used to when you were an agent, getting listings and getting business? Now you're just doing it for recruiting?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when things are going good. I mean, and by that I just mean like when there aren't fires and things like that. Just like an agent, right? Like when I'm in the proper rhythm, we do a 8:30 power up just like everybody else, and then generally that 9 to 10 block is a recruiting block in one manner or another. And recently, it's just been we need to get productivity up a little bit, so I'm trying to get back in the dialer and set up appointments for some of our people and try to help get some wins for our
Thank you.
agents.
That's really helpful because I think that what you just described is a really consistent lead generation process that hopefully, you guys are seeing as, similar to what you're doing to lead gen for business, right? That we want to in this messy middle, we should have a process going for business and a process going for agent growth. That's it. We don't have to get overwhelmed. We don't have to, get 20 people in a month, right? We just need to be consistent and put pressure on that process, right? In that system.
I think that's the key to both. And we've had this conversation a lot here recently. Just because it's been tough. We've had the first quarter was hard this year. We had
Sure.
a lot of cancellations. It's just been a weird market for real estate in our
Sure.
market. And we find that especially recently, the people who are there just the kind of boring consistency every day now have a giant pipeline. And the ones who got real busy fast, and then you take a month off, and then you get a couple closings, and now we go back into it. The yin yang and the roller coaster ride of that is causing them problems. And the people who are like showing up every day and they're just consistently boringly making their dials,
Mm-hmm.
they're now ready to blow up. But it's a 6 month process. And I think I've always looked at recruiting from that standpoint, and now I'm into that. Like, all right, this is just part of the cadence. Like, I'm a pretty regimented person.
Yeah.
I'm up early and work at the same schedule every day, and 8:30 power up, and so now I've added that to it, and I think that helps things from a recruiting standpoint, but it's also that consistency,
Sure.
especially now in this kind of market. If you just come in and out too often, it's not on. It's kind of got to be an all-in real estate market right now. Otherwise, you're going to struggle, and you're going to have ups and
So
downs.
true. So true. Sarita, do you have anything for him on recruiting before we move on to agent productivity?
A couple of things I was just joking on chat. Like if we had $1 for every time he said the word consistent, it's very clear that that is your mode. And just like you said, Via, with regards to how we would recruit for listings or business, you've got a CRM, you're working consistent time blocks, you're categorizing the agents and where they're at, you're doing a touch campaign for them, and you're not stopping, right? You're using tools that you have like Brevity Recruiter and essentially have your recruiting pipeline, and it's just the same with the added caveat that I love that if productivity is an issue for your agents, you get on the phone with them and you help them. So you are not only looking for agents, but you're always watching out for the agents you have and making sure you're moving them along the spectrum. So I loved hearing that. So thanks for that. Can you comment? And I know Via, you might be getting into this. You didn't just get to 2 million GCI or 1.9 GCI with a high price point. Can you talk a little bit about how that affects who you're recruiting with regards to your price point?
Yeah. I mean, I think our average price point had like in the Pittsburgh metro area is about 250. I think ours for our team last year was 290. So I would consider us in the lower price point in terms of just across the country. And quite frankly, when we started in 2018, it was 195. And so from a recruiting standpoint, we want do we want full-time agents? Yes, we always do. We want people to come in and be fully committed and can be there every day. But it's not always realistic when somebody really has the drive and desire. A lot of times they're going to come in on a part-time basis, and we really need to figure out time blocks and how much time can we spend on real estate and how do we get there. And sometimes that means like maybe chunking it down, and there's only one or two things that we're really going to specifically concentrate on at first in order to get enough deal flow that we can naturally progress ourselves out of the current full-time position. Um, you know, like we still have deals that are $50,000, and there's they're not huge commission deals, and so it makes it harder. We need to do more units to make the kind of income that a lot of people want to make. And so a lot of times just like a full-time basis with the ramp up period, there's not as much income there to make that work without a kind of a part-time gig until we get them fully into production. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. It also helps probably reduce a little bit of the stress, but I think it does make it a little bit more difficult getting them full-time into production, because there is a strong commitment that has to be made to work another job and then want to come in and make a dial at 5 o'clock at night,
I love that you shared that, because it's just the reality is it's every market's different, every price point's different. That this isn't one size fits all, but your awareness of your market and their income needs and how to get them there, and a success model or even avatar that you may have on what works for agents, and like what the growth path is within the team to get from side income to fully immersed into the team. I think that's just kudos to you guys on your leadership work for understanding what it takes to succeed and working with those parameters instead of just being like black or white. If it doesn't fit, you're not in. So that's all I wanted to ask.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good transition into our next topic, which is, per agent productivity, because it's not ever, 100% agent count. And partly, Matt and DJ, it's because, to your point, we're always per agent productivity is a great KPI for us to look at, right? As team leads, what is our per agent productivity a month? Is it 0.8? Is it 1.5? Is it 2 units a month? Who knows what it is? But we also have to always be monitoring how much the agents are taking home and if they're making a good enough living, right? And what they're feeling. I mean, you can monitor their feeling very well if you monitor their income, right? How they're feeling and what retention looks like. So I think that the best place to start is agent launch. What does that look like for you guys? What have your results been? And, how quickly are you getting your agents into production? Then I think we can move into kind of more long-term production rhythms that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've really we had a few agents that went through launch last year and it didn't go well, and I think and I take most of the
Kind of
blame for
our
that.
typical 90-day launch, is that's what you're referring to?
Yeah, like we have. So yeah, we do. We have at place. We have new agent launch, which is basically a 90-day ramp up period once we onboard them. So we've generally recently been like pre-onboarding. We need to get them. We need to get them Brivity access. We need to have them learn Brivity ASAP. Like that's just
And
kind
for
of been our
everyone
number one priority.
listening, it's whatever CRM you're on. I think
Correct.
what the translation to that is whatever your CRM is, you got to get them access right away. You need to start getting them comfortable with that. I just wanted to
Yeah.
throw it in because not everyone here.
Yeah, we found, like, from a mistake standpoint, we found that waiting around too long to get them access, to have them learn like whatever CRM it is, it doesn't matter. They need to know that ASAP. Like if they're going to add SOI to their database, they need to know how to work they need to know how to work the CRM. If they're going to call a lead, they need to know how to market a code. Like everything is built around the CRM in our business right now, and probably most businesses. Like, so it only makes sense to me to have, like, they have to learn the CRM like ASAP. So we kind of skip the process a little bit with new agent launch for that. Like I need them to have access, because if I'm going to get them into production faster, they need to be able to dial out of there, and they need to know how to work it, and they need to be able to know how to get a lead out of there. And so we've kind of changed the process up a little bit in that standpoint, but that's part of our pre-agent launch process. And then we've kind of revamped now where I think, like I had mentioned, that I added Jen, who's been with us like kind of the longest, an agent on our team now, that's helping with that onboarding process and helping to manage the agent launch process and progress, and see who's struggling, who's not, who's putting in the work. And then for us, it's more like, okay, these these two are all in right now. They've been there every day. I can see the dials. Like, how do we get them wins? immediately? Like, can we get them something? Are they generating anything on their own? Like, we're looking at both sides of the spectrum, but also I think it's just a telltale sign of who, if somebody's just totally falling off and we're not seeing a lot of activity with that, we know that there's something going on that we need to kind of dive into sooner rather than later. And it just kind of it gets out ahead of potential problems that you might have in the future.
I think one big thing, though, to Matt's point, that we try to stress, when an agent's not doing the work, usually they're not confident. And the only way to get confidence is practice. And that's why we are so big on the script training and the going deep on the listing presentation, the buyer presentation, and continue to do that, because for a lot of them, it's just fear. Fear is what's holding most people back. It's not that they don't want to do the work. They're just very afraid to get on the phone and handle the rejection. And, that's the part I think, what we try to stress, like Matt said it, we try to get wins quickly, right? As quickly as we can get somebody a win, because I do feel like that adds the confidence out of the gate. But then it's that consistent. And, Brian had made a comment about a year ago with us. I moved my desk. I'm in kind of our bullpen area now, making the calls this morning. Matt was making the calls. Like I know our leaders stress this, and they're right. We don't have them do something we don't do. Yeah. So, right. We're still in the trenches doing the work, doing the hard things. And I think that, that's more important than anything, is because we can all say what we're going to do, but if we're not doing it, then how much belief is there really in leadership, right? Mm-hmm. So I will say, like, the systems and processes that we've gained from place, and our CRM makes it much easier as far as market reports, listing alerts, things that just help that cadence or follow-up, where, in others, like in the past, we were kind of just doing everything just old school, tons of phone calls, tons of text, where that's still very important, but these additional things are what's helping move the needle more quickly for productivity.
That's good. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Let's move into kind of ongoing productivity rhythms. So now, they've gone through launch. You have a 90-day launch that you're kind of overlaying, with your stuff on top of that. You're staying on top of them. Any team here, whatever your launch looks like, ours at Place is 90 days and it's on Zoom, but whatever yours looks like, there's a transition point where they're no longer launching, like they're implementing your team's models and systems. And, as a reminder, we're always looking for agents who are willing to work models and systems. That's an ideal team agent, right? We're looking for people. We're actively seeking agents on teams that will adopt our models. Because if they don't, those are the ones that don't show up and don't make it, right? So with that 100%. Said, how would you describe, what your productivity rhythms are and what your lead generation model is? I suppose, like, if I were an agent, we were in a recruiting, I would say to you, hey, Matt, DJ, I sold 6 houses on my own last year, but your team looks cool. Tell me, how am I going to get my business? What is that going to look like if I come there?
Yep. So for us, I think, and we had mentioned it already, everything starts with the power up. We adopted that with the Place move, and it's been one of the best things that we have done. We still could get better. I would say attendance at those, but we've been, I think it's helped dramatically. And if we're 100% into the business right now, it's power up on 9 to 11, call block time, new business development time. We have, from us, it's like I don't want to say 3-pillar, but almost 4-pillar. We're still pretty involved in the expired FSBO market. Like, we kind of cut our teeth on that. That's how we built our business. So we have some team members who are pretty listing oriented, and we're still concentrating on that. They've been down the last couple of years, but we're seeing them come back, and we're having a lot more success again with it this year. So our listing inventory has been up, and I feel like our closings from listings will be up dramatically from that this year. And then really working our sphere to a point that we haven't done as well in the past. Mm-hmm. And then buyer lead gen. We do a little bit of realtor.com, but most of our stuff is off Brivity ads that are running, essentially Facebook ads off of our listings. So we kind of lead with listings. We run ads from listings. We generate buyer leads off of our listings. And then we have we got maybe like a $20,000 or 20,000 person database that our agents are able to call off of. We've had a big emphasis right now on open houses. We're having a lot more success with them this year. We're doubling them up a lot of times. Might have two people doing call blocks on them Saturday and Sunday. We get 4 open houses for the price of 1. Essentially, like certain things like that, we're putting in more of an emphasis on. But for us, we have the lead gen model, and there's every piece to the pie. But naturally, I think a lot of people are more comfortable with certain areas of it, and so we might dive a little bit deeper with that, or we might have time constraints for some people, so they might go a little bit deeper in one manner than another. But I think as long as we know there's for us, it's production or effort. If you're putting in the effort, you're gonna continue to get lead flow, and we see that you're working towards it. We will help reward that. If you're doing production, same. If there's no production, no effort, it's hard to feed you with leads. We've got to go back to the basics again and kind of work your way back into it with some kind of outbound prospecting activity, whether that be Brivity dialer or open houses or door knocking or whatever the case may be. So we kind of run it in that manner. And I don't know what I'm missing, Deech. That was a long-winded answer.
No, I think you nailed it all. And that's where I think the one thing to your point is like some of our agents gravitate toward, say, one of the pillars more than the others, but I know it's going to sound redundant. Again, it's the consistency. Everyone's doing really well right now. They're consistently either doing open houses every single week, or they're doing expireds every single day and FISBOs, or they're doing just the buyer lead pond, the Brivity dials. Like it's just that, I think the hardest thing with our business is we have so much ability to control our day and freedom. But if we treat it like any other job, we were showing up anywhere else, if we just do the boring, hard thing first and get it out of the way in the morning every day, we're all going to be wildly successful. And that again goes back to me. You say, why? Some just don't have the motivation. That's okay. Like if you don't have it. But most people, it's that fear. And it goes back to how do I get more confident, which is just more practice. The practice and the wins will lead to the confidence.
DJ, is there something, when you look at the agents that are consistent and hanging in there and doing well, is there something that you spotted right when they started that kind of you're like, they're going to make it or they're not? Or have you been wrong a lot and it's been all over the board, but it's something that you spot them doing once they start? See this, see what I mean? Like there's recruiting and then there's how someone shows up 90 days in. And I'm curious, the ones that are doing well, did you spot that at recruiting, or did it take you 90 days to figure out who was going to make it?
I think for the most part, I can tell now pretty quick. I think some people surprise me, but I honestly look at it. Matt and I met playing college football. I look at sports. I always knew on every single player who showed up every day and put extra work. And I say the extra. It's the after the practice when you're doing the additional work, the nighttime work, the weekend work. Every single time when I see the agents doing that, and it comes down to desire, how about they want it, they're going to win more. It's just plain and simple, right? And the ones who I feel don't do as much, or they're not focused during that training time, more like, okay, well, kind of check the box. I can almost just feel it. And I think it comes down to desire. Like we always say, like that's why culture is big. Like I'm big on the ones hungry, humble, coachable. You have to have the hunger first. All right. And then humble enough to be able to, like, we still learn every day too. Like I of all the people I'm fortunate to have in my world, whether it be Place or the XP, I'm still trying to get better every day. And I think that desire to know that we can always improve. But to answer your question, yeah, I think at this point we have a pretty good idea of who's out of the gate we feel pretty good about and who, maybe we're not sure about.
You know why I asked the question? I mean, full disclosure, I asked the question because I am still wrong, and I've been a professional recruiter for a long time, and I'm still wrong. It is not until, 90 days in that I start making that call, because that's why I think you always have to be recruiting. And, as long as they're brand representative, they have willingness, there's no ethical issues. I'm more inclined these days to let them try and have it, to have a really good launch program and see how they show up. Because I just am continually surprised, actually, with who makes it. It's the one that whatever they have within them, that they can be consistent and keep coming back through the rejection, through the non-result. It's hard for me to know in advance, like, who's going to weather that, you know?
That's a great point. I
Totally.
think early
Totally.
on, Matt and I used to say, I'll retract the statement now. We always thought we could have this team like Navy SEALs, right?
No, I wasn't.
People smarter than me said, listen, it's really not possible, right? And you use that analogy when you think about it, the actual Navy SEALs, you just said it. They go through Hell Week, which is, say, 200. Maybe 25 make it through that. I mean, when you look at the raw number, and you said it kind of to your point, you probably can't predict. Some of the people that make you probably would have never
Sometimes.
thought. Sometimes, right? But at the end of it, I think that's the lesson we've learned is you always have to be recruiting and be consistent on the training and that continuous cycle. Just like Sarita had mentioned earlier on, it's no different than the same rhythm or cadence with Fizz for sale by owners, expires, whatever you're doing. The recruiting is the same rhythms.
Yeah, and I guess my point in bringing it up, DJ, it wasn't for you to say like I retract. I wasn't trying to. I had a real point in bringing it up, and that point is that I talked to zillions of teams, and my point is that you can't just go into this single facet and say I'm just going to be a good recruiter. It's all going to take care of itself. If you don't have a launch program that is really robust. And if you're not with place at least one full-time person that's running that, you probably can't recruit consistently, because then it's like recruiting water into a colander. It's just going to leak right out the bottom. There's nothing there's nothing that's going to hold them. And so you can't have one without the other. And I think that is the definition of the messy middle, and why so many teams, including myself in the past, by the way, fail. Because you're at this point in time where you're, oh, by the way, I have to produce, and oh, by the way, I have to recruit. And, oh, by the way, now I've got to get them into production and then retain them. And it's virtually impossible for one human to do that, right? And it's expensive for more than one person to do that. And it's also the power of partnership, both with you guys and with Place. But that's why I brought it up.
No, that's huge. I mean, that was a big. I'll let Matt go deeper, but like that was a huge part of our decision. Is Matt more or less running the ship? Me more in sales. I was very proud of where we went, but when we looked at the future, we were just talking about this today. To get to 500 units, 1,000 units, right? We knew humbly that we wanted to be partners of people that have done it and that we could trust to get us there. And A, the experience that our leaders have, B, the systems, the process, and the tools. Without those things, it would be extremely difficult. And we would have to hire many more salaried employees to do what we're able to do now on a lead staff with these tools and processes. I want to stress that that's a very valuable, extremely valuable.
That's one of the reasons we made the move. It got to a point where like I would be in a recruiting meeting and it might be a brand new agent and like nothing against brand new agents, right? But I was just thinking about the 6 months of pain that this was going to be, because I was recruiter, trainer, leader, in production, trying like help, like, so I was basically wearing every hat, and it's like, I can't recruit this way. Like if I could get a system and a process, and the only way I know how to do that is I got to go hire 2 more people,
That's right.
to help with agent training, somebody to help with recruiting, or can we partner with something that helps me systemize the process and I can feel confident in it? And that's really what it came down to, is like we were kind of capped with people, and without taking on a massive expense, it's like, what other options do you have? Like this, what luckily this is an option for us.
I mean, that's the real talk right there. You know, that's to me where the messy middle, that's the moment. It's having simultaneously producing, recruiting, and launching.
Yep.
It's the trifecta that defines probably the hardest point of a real estate team, right?
And might I add, probably doing them all at a subpar level.
Oh,
Right?
such a good point, Matt.
Like we think we're great, but we're terrible at training them. We're terrible. We don't call our clients back. We're terrible at following up with recruits. We don't do any of it at a high level. We do it all at a very subpar level. And but we're like, oh well, I can do it all. And really we're the kink in the chain. We're like, I was the
100%.
one stopping us from growth, you know?
Well, and like DJ said, like when people are not confident, that's why they don't do something. Sometimes as team leaders, we're so confident that we're doing it at a high level. And we really are, when you bring all of that together all at the same time, subpar at best at all of it. And anytime you're trying to integrate and do multiple things, you just can't be a 10 at all of it without help.
Yeah.
That's right. I want to move on, but when you were talking, I was so struck by how real what you were describing is what everybody faces at some point. You can't, you simply, the laws of nature are such that you can't grow a real estate team. That's your ceiling. And until you can crest past that point, you're at a ceiling forever, right? And I would argue that the vast majority of real estate teams actually don't grow beyond that point. They bump along it, they kind of get by, but the ones that do are the ones that are large teams and successful teams. So and that leads us into, and it transitions us into unit count, which is sort of what we were talking about, right? Like, I mean, you can't talk about any of this alone because agent productivity fuels unit count. But I do think, and you did such a great job of describing your lead sources and everything, but I do think that you did say something that's worth talking about, which is, you were like, look, we're in the bullpen together. These are our lead sources. What have you done? What do you pay attention to as leaders? And how do you coach to KPIs? How do you coach to lead response time? How do you coach to, hitting all their database every quarter? What are you guys doing as leaders to stay on top of your agents doing their activities?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is being able to have a dashboard where you have an eye on that. We never really have had that in the past. And so a lot of times that stuff just kind of falls through the cracks, quite frankly, right? So being able to track lead flow, being able to track response time, being able to track dials, having leaderboards, having production leaderboards, like having the data and being able to get, because, when you get to 15 agents, 20 agents, 30 agents, it's impossible to micromanage every person and know exactly what's going on. And you can have a feeling that maybe somebody's checked out here for the last couple of weeks. Like you kind of know something's going on, but you don't always know what's going on behind the scenes. The dashboard and the data give you a backstage pass to, okay, they actually didn't make any calls this week. So I got to check in and see where we're at and what happened. So for us, it's pretty simple. Well, not simple. I mean, it's really hard to do, but the process is pretty
Simple, not easy, I always say.
Exactly. Yeah. So what do we want business to look like? Right. So for every agent, that might be different. I might have different agreements with different agents based on time, based on based on income need, everything else. And then we're going to back into what that looks like from a KPI standpoint. So for somebody that might be totally different than somebody else. And that's okay, right? That's okay if your goal's only 10 deals and somebody else's is 40. What do we need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis in order for you to get to that? And now I have something to track and coach upon. So we've made the mistake in the past. I feel like that we have an expectation of what everyone should be doing, and we were consistently let down. And so we have now come to terms with the fact that if we don't have proper agreements with the agents on our team, they know what they want to do, they know what they want to get out of it, and I'm comfortable with that, and they're comfortable with that, then I'm perfectly fine coaching around that.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, we didn't hit our numbers this week. What happened? Now, does the goal need to change? Is there something going on that I need to know about? Do you need help with something? Like, and now we know how to properly coach and adjust around that. But it all kind of starts with what's the goal? What does the income number need to look like? How many deals does that equate to? How do we back into that? What are you not only capable, but what are you willing to do on a weekly basis, daily basis? Like, what does that look like? And if we can hit those numbers, I'm confident we're going to get you to the goals that we've set out together. But
Mm-hmm.
it you know, it's not like we've been doing it a little while, but long enough to know that like we wanted to build it originally where everybody's doing this and this is what it is. And we were constantly let down. And we can still be let down. Like we want it more for people than they want it for themselves. A lot of the time, that's the hardest part of being a team leader and wanting to grow. And so we have to come to agreements with the agents on what does that look like.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not upholding your end of the bargain, then we're gonna coach to that and try to find out what the reasoning is behind that, and then how do we get that back on track? But we have to start with some kind of agreement and time commitment and kind of go from there.
So you're meeting with them, you hire them, you kind of get that commitment. And then what do you have weekly meetings with them, daily? What does that look like? And when you do, so you're checking the CRM, you're checking their activities. What does that cadence look like, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably depends on who it is and what it is. I have like there's certain agents on the team that we're gonna have one-on-ones every week or bi-weekly, and then we'll have some group calls. We have a team meeting every Monday. We're kind of going through numbers. We have a meeting every Wednesday. We run through like open houses, things like that, deal flow, and then power ups in the morning. And then for the most part, though, a lot of it is one on one, and then a little bit of group coaching. And Jen has helped a little bit with that, where like a weekly meeting with our agents, going through launch, helping kind of helping to bring that along. And then she's kind of the go between a little bit now, where her and I will meet and like who's on pace, who's not, who do we need to talk to, who do we need to sit down with, what's going on with them, and then we kind of coach along that. But most of it leads, or at least starts with number tracking through the database.
Yeah.
Like it's just the dashboard kind of tells us everything we need to know in a lot of cases.
So that's one thing I wanted to stress. I feel like we have used probably every CRM out there. And I will say, like, this is where I get extremely hopeful. I have never seen a CRM software yet that like our 10 daily steps and these processes where if you follow exactly now, the amount of data that we have our fingertips on is unlike I've ever seen. So where do we right now, we're just talking about this morning, see tremendous opportunity. We have a 20,000 person database. There's so much business in that database. When we talk about lead flow and productivity for agents, when Matt and I were just calling this morning, I think he had 4 or 5 contacts, set an appointment. I got a couple buyers. So the other thing is too, with us doing it, where agents see the wins and see, and then we're able to reward them with some of these folks. Them seeing it makes it believable too, because we always hear like, well, the leads are bad or they're old, right? There's just so much opportunity, and that's where I think what places open our eyes to. And this is real talk. They're operating at the NFL level, like the depth of what we can now go into with the data and the predictability, and say if you just do this, the market reports, the triggers, all that. I've never seen that before. That used to be just on a spreadsheet where it's just your normal weekly follow-up, where now it's so intelligent. It's telling you, call these people right now. They're raising their hand. So that part gives me a tremendous amount of hope and, toward the future of growth as well, just for unit count also.
I love that so much. And it's so true, right? Having a CEO dashboard is absolutely 100% a requirement for running a business. It doesn't matter what the business is, right? Certainly real estate, where we are measuring extraordinarily detailed KPIs and we're relying on self-reporting. So it's very, very
Great.
important. Really, really well said, DJ. I love that. Which, again, every topic leads into the next, which really leads us to our last, way that you guys grew, because we always want to talk about the bottom line, not just the top line, right? And I think what's amazing is what I heard you say is you grew in profit. Is that accurate? That your bottom line grew as your top line grew, which might sound obvious to everybody, but I see a lot of P&Ls and that doesn't always happen. In fact, it doesn't normally happen, right?
It doesn't. It's it's felt like over the last 6 years, the more revenue we brought in, the less we kept. Quite frankly, a lot of times you end up buying buying another lead source. You make hires. You're always in growth mode, and so you're always spending to lead the growth. I feel like, but you don't pay attention enough to profitability. And so as team leaders, it's easy in the beginning because you're in production. So you're the one that's doing the majority of the business. You're keeping the majority of the income, but you don't really treat it like you should. And so I think the emphasis that we have found is just, at the pace that we're going, we're just the conversation I had with Chris prior to moving was we're growing, but we're not scaling.
That's
And
right.
we've got to a point where we're continuing to increase revenue, but we're not increasing profit percentage on that. And I think that's the majority of teams out there. As soon as the team leader, the rainmaker, or whoever they are, want to get out of production, there's no profit left over. And they haven't built that business foundationally. And we didn't either. We had and still have a couple splits that are out of whack, and we're kind of working more towards that. And how do we reduce expenses? There's a lot of things that I think that we can do. And for us in a lower price point market, we look at threefold, right? Can we increase revenue per transaction? Because on a lower price point, if we can get an additional 0.5%, or we can get an additional 6.95 or 7.95 admin fee or additional commission, it goes a long way when we're doing a couple of hundred transactions, right? That helps both us and the agent and profitability. And then the second thing is we have to be cognizant of our expenses. We can't overspend in a market like this, because there will be months that we'll lose money. Our January is not the same as our June and July here in Pittsburgh. They're totally different markets. And then the third thing is just is being cognizant of splits, being cognizant of lead sources that you're using that maybe we're paying 35%, like referral fees, things like that. They drastically change your profit percentage at the end of the day. And we've just found that we couldn't make a Zillow Flex model work. It's just, I don't know how some teams do it. Maybe it's price point, but in a really low price point model, giving away 40%, you're just kind of doing it to break even. And so we've really been, cognizant of the profitability of our business, and that's a lot to do with place, and just really tracking that and finding ways to try to increase that. And we increased it. We're not where we want to be, but we're making progress towards that. And I think with growth that will continue to come. But it's not easy. It's just really not.
Yeah, so you're that's exactly what you described, scaling versus growing, right? And I heard you say cost of sales. So, said another way, referral fees and agent splits, coupled with not adding a ton of overhead as you grow in agent count, which, you can do. I always tell people, everyone automatically assumes leverage means hiring people. Actually, leverage is technology. Leverage is systems and processes. And if you're smart with that, you can make it happen. The other thing I would tie back to that is something both of you have said a lot during this call, which is that you have a culture of productivity. So you're teaching them to self-lead generate. You're doing it with them in the trenches, shoulder to shoulder, and that really cuts down on having to have a lot of third party, right, and expensive outside lead sources coming in. So I'm going to say it again, what I said earlier, it's not ever just one thing, is it? It's that plus, the ability to be able to recruit through all of this, and the ability to have agent launch, and the ability to have cost controls, and to not have to go up and hire people, and it's a constellation of things that lend themselves to this. So Thank you guys for sharing today.
Thank you.
You got it. Thanks for having us.
Sarita, any last words, kind of based on our convo today? You've been quiet.
I have been quiet. No, I just put it in the chat, and I think it's worth mentioning. And it's just a great segue to what you just said, which is doing it all, right? And simultaneously listening to both Matt and DJ talk. As a team leader that wants to grow and knowing how hard this is, it's very easy. I catch myself and others say to each other all the time, like, why are we doing this again? Should we maybe blow up our team and go back to being an individual agent? Because it's a heck of a lot easier because I can control myself. And just the two themes here, the consistency that you have and the absolute clarity you have on what it takes, it's really powerful. It's obvious to me why you guys are bucking the trend and growing in a time where so many are suffering, because you have your eye on the prize, you know exactly what needs to be done. And it isn't easy, as we said, but to do it all and to do it all simultaneously with the systems and the processes and the focus that you have, it's super inspiring. So I just can't thank you enough for sharing.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having us.
Of you for their Pittsburgh referrals.
Yes.
Thanks again.
DJ.
How can people get a hold of you guys?
You can go to either contact any of us directly, obviously, or you can go to our website. It's mad.homes. Mad Homes is our website team name, but you can find us on the internet. Matt or DJ. We're easy to find.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys.